Hello students, this is a short note on the ciliary ganglion. So the question is, write a short note on ciliary ganglion and about its connection. Okay, we have to see the connections which are with that of the ciliary ganglion. So the ciliary ganglion is a very small structure. It is about 2 millimeter in diameter and said to be a pinhead size. The size of the ciliary ganglion is probably smallest in the whole of the central nervous system among the among the peripheral nervous system. Okay, it is the smallest ganglion, and the type of this ganglion is the parasympathetic ganglion. What is the meaning of parasympathetic? Now this ganglion is the collection of the postganglionic parasympathetic neurons. That means neurons are collected in this ganglion which are postganglionic neurons. Okay, and this ganglion is located in the orbit. Okay, it is near the apex of the orbit and it is placed in course of the oculomotor nerve, attached to the oculomotor nerve. That means the fibers which are coming, parasympathetic preganglionic fibers which are coming, they come on the oculomotor nerve, and from the branch of the oculomotor nerve, this ganglion hangs near the apex of the orbit. So its topographical relationship of this parasympathetic ganglion is with that of the oculomotor nerve. Location, as I said, the ganglion is placed near the apex of the orbit in fatty tissue between the optic nerve and the lateral rectus muscle. That means when you are dissecting a ciliary ganglion in the dissection of the orbit, you have to be very careful and dissect with the help of the pointed forceps. That means just work lateral to that of the optic nerve, between the optic nerve and that of the lateral rectus muscle. Okay, and try to just locate this pinhead size ganglion which is sending from its anterior margin the 8 to 10 minute filaments which are the short ciliary nerves. That will help you to locate this ganglion during the dissection. Now, as I said that this ganglion is the collection of the postganglionic parasympathetic neuron. So where is the preganglionic parasympathetic neurons associated with this ganglion? Now this preganglionic neurons, they are located in the nucleus within the midbrain, and this nucleus is called as Edinger-Westphal nucleus. This is called as Edinger. Let us see this diagram and I will show you the location of the preganglionic parasympathetic neuron. This is a cross section of the midbrain, central canal, the periaqueductal gray matter, and then this is the oculomotor nucleus of this side, and just posterolateral to it, this is the Edinger-Westphal nucleus, which is a collection of the preganglionic parasympathetic neuron. Thus, this is a parasympathetic nucleus, that is the Edinger. While here, this oculomotor nerve is the third cranial nerve nucleus. It is the third cranial. Both are placed close to each other. Now, this preganglionic fiber of this Edinger-Westphal nucleus, the parasympathetic nucleus, the red line, they will travel on the nerve which is called as the oculomotor nerve, the third cranial nerve oculomotor. Its superior division, then it will be traveling in the inferior division, then from inferior division, when it will become the nerve of the inferior division which is going to the inferior oblique muscle, then this is running in this nerve of inferior oblique which is a branch of the oculomotor nerve, and then along from that nerve it will go to the ciliary ganglion. That means the nerve to the inferior oblique muscle will send the fibers of the parasympathetic preganglionic axonal fibers which are arising from Edinger-Westphal nucleus in midbrain, then this will go and get connected or will terminate into this tiny ciliary ganglion which is near the apex between the optic nerve and the lateral rectus muscle, where it will relay. See the other part of this diagram. This is the pons where the sensory nucleus of the trigeminal nerve, okay, is located here, okay, and this is the nucleus where the sensation from the eyeball will be coming, okay, including that of the other regions, that is the upper eyelid, the lower eyelid, okay. So this is the trigeminal nerve nucleus, okay, and this fibers will be coming, okay. This will be where it is a ganglion is here, that is the trigeminal ganglion, which is near the apex of the petrous temporal bone in the middle cranial fossa. Here these fibers are sensory, that means they are coming from the eyeball, this blue line. These fibers are not coming from the iris, as I have drawn the diagram of iris to show you the sympathetic and parasympathetic innervation of the iris and ciliary body. But these fibers, they are not only coming from the eyeball but from surrounding area also, and they are carrying the they are carrying the sensation which are exteroceptive, that is pain, touch and temperature, from the area of the eyeball and neighboring structures. And these fibers, they will travel through the nasociliary nerve, then to the ophthalmic division of the trigeminal nerve, then to the ganglia where its cell body is located. So from eyeball to this trigeminal ganglion, it is the peripheral process of the nasociliary nerve, of this ganglion or nerve cells, okay, sensory, and it's process that is located, which is going and ending into the sensory ganglia, is the central process, okay, it is going central process. So this is the second part of, type of the sensory neurons. These are sensory neurons which are carrying the sensation from eyeball through the trigeminal nerve, that is the ophthalmic nerve. It is the ophthalmic, whose branch was the nasociliary nerve. The third type of the connection is with the help of the sympathetic fibers, and this is the thoracic one spinal segment in a cross section from the lateral horn, which is the collection of the preganglionic sympathetic neuron. This was the postganglionic, this was also the preganglionic parasympathetic neuron in midbrain, but here it is the preganglionic sympathetic neuron at T1 level of the spinal cord. Then it runs with the ventral root of the spinal nerve T1, then it jumps to the sympathetic chain. This is the inferior sympathetic ganglion, middle sympathetic cervical ganglion, and this is superior cervical ganglion, sympathetic at the base of the skull, where this preganglionic sympathetic fibers will relay. So where it will relay? In the superior cervical sympathetic ganglion, and then where the postganglionic neurons of sympathetic innervation are located, or pathway are located. So the axon of the postganglionic fibers first will jump to the internal carotid artery, which is very close to the sympathetic ganglion here, and then when it will give a branch, the ophthalmic artery, this plexus will continue on ophthalmic artery, and thus it will come to the orbit, and from there these fibers, sympathetic fibers, will also cross to that of the ciliary ganglion. So was the sympathetic sensory fibers was also crossing through the, or passing through the ciliary ganglion. So it is the sensory fibers of the trigeminal nerve, that is ophthalmic, they just pass through the ganglion. Similarly, the sympathetic fibers, they are just passing through the ganglion without relaying. So the relaying is taking place only of the parasympathetic preganglionic fibers. onto the body of the postganglionic neuron. That's why it is the collection of the parasympathetic neurons. Okay, relay station for parasympathetic pathway. Now these sympathetic fibers along with the short ciliary nerves, which I said about 8 to 10 minute twigs, which comes out from the anterior margin of ciliary ganglion, and they run along with the optic nerve to go very close to the entrance of the optic nerve, and they pierce the sclera of the eyeball and reach to that of the iris, that is the sphincter pupillae, and to the ciliary body. And this fiber sympathetic, they innervate to the dilator pupillae, while parasympathetic was innervating to the constrictor pupillae fibers, smooth muscle fibers, and both were innervating also to that of the ciliary body, which is involved in the accommodation reflex. That means it changes the curvature, ciliary body of the lenses. Okay, so this is just an introduction to that of the diagram. Now I will just tell you about the different branches, okay, or the connections. Let us come to the connection. Okay, connection, first we will learn about the connection, that is first let us come to the parasympathetic root. Okay, parasympathetic root, its connection of the preganglionic, it consists, parasympathetic root consists of the preganglionic parasympathetic fibers. See this, preganglionic red line, okay, preganglionic parasympathetic fibers, which are arising from the Edinger-Westphal nucleus, and then they jump on to the oculomotor nerve. Okay, and after traveling with the oculomotor nerve, the fibers will relay here in the ciliary ganglion. The postganglionic fibers, which I have shown here in dotted line, the postganglionic fibers from this ganglion arise as a short ciliary nerves, which I take about 8 to 10 fine nerves are there, which are taking origin from the anterior margin of ciliary ganglion, and will pierce the sclera of the eyeball near the optic nerve, okay, surrounding to the optic. So the postganglionic fibers from the ganglion arise as short ciliary nerve and which innervate the sphincter pupillae, this red circular line. So it innervate the sphincter pupillae muscle. That means stimulation of parasympathetic innervation will lead to the constriction of the pupil. Okay, so this innervation is the sphincter pupillae, as well as it also innervate to the muscles in the ciliary body, okay, in the ciliary body. And the ultimate effect is that it leads to the constriction of the smooth muscle, which is called as the constrictor pupillae. And this muscle is circularly arranged around the pupil, okay, it is in the iris, okay, in the iris. So this was one of the connection or the root, parasympathetic. Let us come to the second connection, that is the sensory root. And sensory root is a branch from the nasociliary nerve, which itself is a branch from the ophthalmic division of the trigeminal nerve, okay, ophthalmic division of the trigeminal. Now these fibers, which are bringing sensation of pain, touch and temperature, pressure, they are coming not only from this pupillae, okay, dilator or constrictor pupillae. The fibers are mainly coming from the eyeball and that of the, the various coats of the eyeball, and then these fibers are going without relaying and they are passing towards the central nervous system. Okay, so the direction is just opposite. Here the direction of the fibers or impulses was towards the pupil, okay, eyeball. Here it is reverse, okay, they are going towards the pons, okay, where the sensory nucleus of the trigeminal nerve is located. So this impulse will go first through nasociliary nerve, then through the ophthalmic nerve, whose cell body is located here in the ganglion, trigeminal ganglion, and then its central process will relay into the sensory nucleus of the pons, and then it will ascend up, okay, trigeminothalamic fibers. They will ascend up to the thalamus, and from thalamus it will go to the postcentral gyrus sensory cortex, where actual this sensation will be felt, okay, appreciated, okay. So it carries the general sensation from the eye, okay, the sensory root. Then the third root is the sympathetic root, which I have drawn with the black color here. Sympathetic root is here, and here is the preganglionic fiber located at T1 thoracic level of the spinal cord. Then it will jump to the sympathetic chain, then it will come to here to the superior cervical ganglion, then will jump to the internal carotid artery, and when it will give the ophthalmic branch, it will run on ophthalmic, comes to the orbit, and then this fiber will also pass through the ciliary ganglion without relay, because it is a parasympathetic ganglion, and then through the short ciliary nerve the fibers will innervate the smooth muscle of this iris. That is, it is the dilator pupillae muscle, which I have shown you in the black lines here, to these muscles which are radially oriented around the pupil, okay. So to this muscle, so the contraction of this muscle will lead to the dilatation of the pupil. So these were the three connections, or the three root of the ciliary ganglion: parasympathetic connection, the sensory connection, and the sympathetic connection. Now the branches, I have said you that all these branches which arise from the ciliary ganglion, they are 6 to 10 short ciliary nerve, and they take origin from this ganglion and pass along with the optic nerve towards the eyeball, okay, and will supply to the eyeball. This completes the, a question on a very important short note on the ciliary ganglion and its connection. I hope that you have understood. Thank you very much for watching this short note.